Television has long held a fascination with pushing boundaries of human endurance, fear and curiosity. From survivalist challenges to reality dating shows, the 2000s ushered in a new unhinged era of unscripted TV. Among the most extreme of these was Fear Factor, a program that made people eat bugs, get buried alive, leap off speeding trucks and scream for dear life. All for the grand prize of 50 grand. That's it, 50k. But once Uncle Sam takes his contribution, the weekly contestants were left with 34 grand. This wasn't just reality television. It was adrenaline-soaked, trauma-fueled chaos broadcast directly into millions of households across America. Although ultimately a huge success, it had almighty trials and tribulations, with the show constantly pushing the physical and ethical demands of what you can make people do for a small fortune and 5 minutes in the sun. To understand Fear Factor, you need to understand the early 2000s. This was peak Jackass era. Americans had decided that watching people suffer on TV was more fun than anything scripted, and networks were foaming at the mouth for the next big thing. Originally a Dutch show called Now or Neverland, Fear Factor was snapped up by NBC and Americanized into something way more intense and lawsuit prone. The premise was simple. 6 contestants, later pared down to 4, would face 3 escalating stunts, 2 physical and 1 gross out. Whoever completed them the fastest or didn't puke and quit won the money. NBC was all in, and on June 11th, 2001, Fear Factor premiered. The response? Explosive. America was hooked. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Tarantulas on faces, maggot milkshakes, submerged coffins, and yes, lots and lots of throwing up. For a while, it was the hottest thing on TV, and standing stoically in the middle of all of this lunacy was a man who had become synonymous with the show. Joe Rogan is now arguably one of the most famous people on the planet thanks to his wildly successful podcast. However, before he was Spotify's $100 million man, in the early 2000s, Joe was a relatively unknown comedian, sitcom actor, and part-time UFC commentator. Thanks to his work on news radio, NBC executives were willing to take a risk on Joe due to his sarcastic and unfiltered approach to the hosting role.
I got the gig was because I made fun of it. Like everybody else was trying to be spooky. Like they're like, the fear is fear, a factor for you. And I came into this meeting, I was high as fuck. I came into this meeting and they were telling me what they wanted to do. One of the casting directors, guy Jeff from NBC, hooked up the meeting. He thought I would be a good fit for it because I was, I'd just been on NBC for news radio. And I came into this meeting, I was like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, you're gonna sick dogs on people. I'm like, this is like a bit in an act. Yeah. This is like a bit of where it goes terribly wrong. You're gonna make people eat animal dicks. You're gonna sick dogs on people. You're gonna throw people off buildings. This is the most insane idea for a television show I've ever heard. This is gonna be canceled immediately, and I'm gonna have all this material about. Remember when I used to host Fear Factor?
Over time, Rogan's persona became central to the Fear Factor brand. Joe didn't present Fear Factor; he lived it. He smirked when someone dry heaved. He poked fun at contestants' fragile egos and wasn't afraid to call someone out if they chickened out. And because of that, viewers felt like they weren't just watching a game show, they were all in on the joke. In fact, Rogan said himself that the show was like a prank show disguised as a competition. His background in martial arts and comedy also lent credibility. He wasn't just a bystander, but someone who seemed as though they might attempt the challenges himself. From 2001 to 2004, Fear Factor ruled the airwaves, with at its peak routinely attracting 10 to 12 million viewers per episode. The show became such a cultural phenomenon that it even got parodied on things like The Chappelle Show. It pulled ratings, stirred controversy, and most importantly, it was cheap to make. Despite, or perhaps because of its popularity, Fear Factor was heavily criticised. Many media pundits viewed it as emblematic of cultural decline, a race to the bottom in entertainment. Parents groups and watchdog organisations objected to the content, especially the episodes involving graphical animal parts or bug consumption. Animal rights groups also voiced concerns. While producers claimed insects and animals used were treated humanely or already dead, many felt the show promoted animal cruelty. However, like many reality shows, Fear Factor eventually fell victim to oversaturation. NBC began airing themed seasons, couples, best friends, reality stars, to keep the formula fresh, but viewers began tired of the repetition. By 2006, the show's ratings had dipped significantly, and worst of all, the contestants were becoming too self-aware. They weren't regular people anymore. They were fame-hungry maniacs trying to start influencer careers before Instagram even existed. In fact, it got so bad that season season that Joe had to have a scrap with one of the contestants.
No TV host has ever shut down a conflict of like that fast.
Well, that guy they'd warned me about.
Oh, really?
He had a history of violence, and he had done some violent things on some other reality
Dude, it was
shows.
you.
There was zero security. There was me and a bunch of random maniacs that were trying to eat bull dicks,
Right.
and jump off
I mean,
buildings.
we don't need security.
And some of them were super sketchy. That guy maybe could have hit me. He was thinking about hitting me.
After 140 episodes, the network officially pulled the plug after 6 seasons. Ironically, the show's demise came not because it changed, but because it stayed too much the same. Viewers no longer found the stunts shocking, and competing shows like Survivor and American Idol evolved even faster, adapting to audiences' tastes more effectively. However, Joe had also grown increasingly wary of the show's demands and wasn't surprised by the decision or sad about the outcome, as it meant that it gave him the opportunity to return to stand-up comedy full-time.
I was on like season 5 of Fear Factor. I remember thinking, I don't know how much longer I can do this.
What was it about it that it was just too much, repetitive?
It was the same thing over and over again. We did 148 episodes. After a while, it's just like, Jesus Christ, how many animal dicks can you serve people? You know what? Again, very fortunate. It was a great gig, plenty of money, and it was all good. And it definitely helped my stand-up because it gave me fuck you money too. It gave me the ability to not worry about like having money in the bank, because I don't have like extravagant tastes. I'm not too ridiculous with money, but I like feeling like I don't have to worry. Like as soon as you don't have to worry about, okay, good, don't think about that anymore. Now think about other things. So it really helped me there. And also the preposterousness of it was a boundless source of material.
5 years after its cancellation, NBC resurrected Fear Factor in 2011, hoping to capitalize on nostalgia and the success of other Revied franchises. Joe returned as host, now as a much more prominent public profile thanks to his stand-up, podcasting, and UFC work. Although returning now gave Joe fuck you money, he immediately regretted returning.
I came back, but I didn't have as much money back then, and also it was a lot more money than I got the first time. It was a big deal that it was going to come back, but I immediately regretted it. Like immediately, I was like, oh my god, I have a job again. I was just having children then. I have to make.
You have 18 years.
Yeah, I have to make a lot of money, and then I was thinking like all the money I squirreled away from the original season of Fear Factor, that took care of my family for a long time, and it'll probably be okay. I felt like this overwhelming responsibility to squirrel away more money. But then once I started doing it, I was like, oh my god, this is a mistake.
The reboot featured upgraded production values and more cinematic challenges. Everything was bigger, faster, and louder. The first few episodes drew strong ratings, with the premiere attracting over 8 million viewers, a respectable number for the time. As the season continued, Joe became increasingly more concerned about the level of stunts that were being asked of the contestants.
The show had to get more and more extreme, and it was very dangerous. Like, it was freaking me out. And so when we came back, I felt uncomfortable with a lot of the shit. They know how to do it. Like, these stunt guys are top of the food chain, but they were doing some sketchy shit. Like one of them, we had these people chained to a tree with bungee cords that were attached to a helicopter. Okay, and they had to figure out the right locks to unlock the bungee cord. That are the straps that keep them to the tree. And then as soon as they do, they undo the strap and they go fucking shooting out into space, into the center of this gigantic canyon, and they're bouncing underneath this helicopter. And I remember thinking, like, if we could do this 1,000 times, one of them, someone's gonna die.
Of course.
One of them, someone's gonna die, and it might be the next one.
But it never happened.
We got lucky, dude. I really feel like we got lucky. I really, honestly, 100% feel like we got lucky.
Although Joe could see the writing on the wall, old habits die hard. In the summer of 2011, Fear Factor filmed an episode that would go on to become the final nail in the coffin. During this episode, 2 sets of twins had to drink an entire jug of donkey semen and urine in order to make it to the next round. Now, I obviously can't show you the clip of the juice drinking in this video, but it is on YouTube. So for any of you curious freaks out there, go watch that. The episode was banked to be released the following year. However, a few days before its scheduled release, a TMZ article was published which shows set photos of the soon-to-be televised juice drinking. Sources to TMZ also stated that multiple execs had multiple powwows in the months before the stunt was shot. To avoid even more scrutiny, NBC refused to air the episode and reinforced perceptions that the show had gone too far.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
A jug of cum.
Who made it?
A donkey.
They're like from Joe Rogan.
Donkey. Yeah, my own cum. Took me a year to fill up everyone's stein.
And
yeah. They put a
that-
cattle prod up a donkey's asshole.
Yeah.
And they would come like, zap them in the old testes, and they just shoot buckets. Yeah, and they played horseshoes. So they played horseshoes, and you could never win. Like, even if you made like a ringer and you like you would have to drink 1 ounce. But if you fucked up, you were drinking like 10, 11, 12 ounces. These are jugs.
The American Donkey and Mule Society was furious about the challenge, with the president stating, "We don't condone the use of animals in such a manner. We feel this is a negative event and was not well thought out by producers." Apparently, one source within the donkey community suggested that no one should try the stunt at home because the long-term effects of drinking donkey sperm are unknown. One of the twin girls who was featured in the segment described what the experience was like to TMZ hosts.
TMZ has had this picture, which I hope you guys have seen, of the glass of donkey semen and the glass of donkey urine up on the website. Is that the actual glass that you guys were given?
Yeah, you can times that by 2. We just kept thinking it's beer and pina colada or apple juice.
Oh, guess who's never having a pina colada again?
And I'm looking at it right now. I would imagine that even if I psyched myself out to think pina colada, the smell is probably putrid.
Oh, and the worst part, it was sitting out all day.
Oh!
Drinking both the substances, they were boiling as going down. So you can imagine the smell is like even worse sitting outside.
You got 15 minutes, and if you vomited, you would have to start over.
Oh!
What I ended up doing was just vomited in my glass and just drank that.
Oh, man!
What is worse than being on TV drinking donkey semen, or not being on TV after drinking donkey semen? Drinking the donkey semen and still not winning anything. Despite some strong early numbers, the reboot failed to maintain its momentum. Ratings dropped after a few episodes, and the donkey episode was the final kick in the bollocks. So in May 2012, Fear Factor was officially cancelled, this time apparently for good. That was until MTV executives sat in a boardroom in 2017 and said, "Let's bring back Fear Factor, but make it for Gen Z." Enter actor and rapper Ludacris. Luda took over hosting duties for a different iteration of Fear Factor, bringing a different energy, less mocking and more motivational. The show had a lighter tone, with challenges remaining intense but slightly less grotesque. Though it saw moderate success on cable TV, the MTV reboot lacked the cultural impact of the original. After 2 seasons and 33 episodes, MTV quietly cancelled the show in 2018. Critics noticed that the show's edge had been dulled, and that what once shocked audiences now seemed quaint in an era of viral TikToks, YouTube challenges, and 24/7 reality content. Fear Factor was not a good show, let's be honest. It was deranged, irresponsible, and probably unethical to a degree, but it was perfect for its time. It captured a moment when TV was shifting, when reality meant more than fiction, when networks were willing to throw humans at the worst instincts for the sake of ratings. Through 2 revivals and 3 cancellations, it tried to reinvent itself, but the world moved on. While it may no longer be shock or a thrill in the way it once did, Fear Factor remains a significant piece of television history, a pioneer in the realm of extreme reality programming, and a launchpad for one of modern media's most influential personalities. Thank you so much for watching this video, it really does mean a lot to me. Make sure to follow me in all of my socials at Phat Mima, like, subscribe, and comment below what you want to see next.